How did you find that process compared to when you said that the 18-year-olds were crying when they were doing regular army boot camp, really? How did you find the difference in terms of the guys that were going through the course and wanted to be there?
They knew what they were there to do, so there was no illusion, right? We'd kind of, read enough books and understood the dynamic in special forces enough because you had SAS around at that point. And we've read plenty of books and, the Commandos, the Z-Force back in World War II in New Guinea. So we kind of knew it was going to be hard, and you wanted to prepare your body and prepare your mind for what was coming. So everybody kind of knew what they needed to do. So physically to get fit, 6 months before, start a program and really build it up. So you kind of peaked on the course, because you want to keep your muscle and keep your good body weight. You're going to deteriorate, your body's going to fall apart, but it's all about managing where that happens on the course. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the build-up training. I enjoyed reading and finding out, what was going to happen to the body and in what time frame it was going to happen. So there was no surprises. And we had enough group intelligence to work out, what we needed to do and how to get through it. And we could hit up the guys from the course that, happened 9 months before as well and find out exactly what they went through.
How long is the selection process into the Commandos?
These days, I've got no idea. I think it's sort of about a 3-week selection course. It was a little bit different when I did it. Back then, it was like a 2-week course, and then you had a week off, and then you did a month-long course. So there was different tempos and different schedules they ran back then. But I guess the good part of that was the first 2 weeks, they just smashed you for the sake of it to try and break you and to test your physical and mental strength. So you didn't have to think too much, right? You could just get beasted and do 20 and 30 clickers and, hill runs and swims and, 0-200 swim sessions that finished at 5 a.m. without having to learn anything. So you really didn't have to switch on. So that's kind of a luxury, actually, where you can just smash your body. And then you got a week off, and then we started.
We're such different people.
Yeah.
A luxury to get beasted for 2 weeks. Okay, keep going.
And switch your brain off. Yeah, I know, because we didn't really get taught much. So that happened a week later. We started the month-long course where they taught you stuff. You had to learn commando tactics while being beasted 23 hours a day. So yeah, you had to stay awake or try and stay awake at least anyway, give the idea that you were awake.
Were you in a relationship at this stage?
No, I was single.
So you were able to 100% focus on
100%
getting through and doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like guys will look for an option to get out of it. The brain sort of wants your body to stop. And if you've got kids or you're in a relationship or you're in a relationship that's going south, it's easy to say, this is all too hard. I'm never going to be home once I get to the unit anyway. I love my wife, love my girlfriend, love the kids. It's easy to tap out if you've got something to go back to.
Did you realize that you were that mentally strong before you did the course? Like, did it surprise you that you passed?
Yes and no. Like there was times I wanted to tap out. Like there was, a day that we did a stores carry for, 18 hours, dragging boxes and ammo liners up a hill. And I had to stop and got four bags put in me. And at that point you want to stop because it's easy, right? You're in a tent for half an hour while they're squeezing all these bags in here to hydrate you again. And it's easy to go, hey, listen, I could just hop in a Rover and be back to Townsville. But I'm over Townsville mindset as well. I don't want to go back there. It's too hot. I'm looking forward to Sydney. I'm looking forward to being in a new unit. And there was even talk back then of like 4RR Commando, which they were named back then, taking over the domestic CT responsibility. So the Australia's counter-terrorism national asset was going to be distributed amongst SAS and Commandos. So that was a kind of a sexy job where you kicked around in black and worked with the police tactical units around Australia and kind of the force of last resort to resolve any hostage recovery. So that was a big selling ticket, I think, for the unit back then. So a lot of guys were like, that's different. It probably prolongs your time in the army because you're doing some black role domestic stuff as well as potentially overseas deployments.
But did that actually happen? Because you guys weren't involved in the Lindt siege.
No, that's a good point. So it did happen. To answer your question, so the they called it the TAG, the Tactical Assault Group. So Perth had Tactical Assault Group West, and that took over, sort of cut Australia down the centre, and the west half went to Perth, and the right half went to Commandos. So there is a procedure for a local domestic incident, and they've got to, government obviously sits and they go through checks and balances, and the police tactical team get called out. So if they can resolve it, they think they can resolve it, then they will. And if they can't, they hand it off, and there's certain checks and balances, like I said, that where they should potentially hand it off because it's deemed as a terrorist incident. I won't go too much into it, but if it's deemed a terrorist incident, then you've got a national asset to deal with it, as opposed to local law enforcement that are still doing a lot of warrant stuff and robberies and homicides. So their natural core skill may not be assaulting an aircraft or a bus or a train every day like we were doing.
So you haven't really answered the question, though. I didn't miss that one, Barry. If you guys are dealing with that sort of stuff, why didn't you guys go in? What can you say? Can you even comment on that?
Oh, yeah, I can. We were stood up. So our guys, I wasn't there. I'd left the company at that stage. The company I was in got stood up. So everybody got recalled, went to work, loading magazines and getting the radios ready and getting briefs, and loading the vehicles ready to go, and in a holding pattern out at Holsworthy, while the police, TOU, Tactical Operations Unit, which fall under the State Protection Group, were on target with their snipers and their dogs and their assault teams. So they had primacy at that point. So the handover hadn't occurred. Our guys were pushing for the handover to take place. So it became a terrorist incident where we would resolve it, but it didn't make it to that phase before they deemed, I guess, that the threat became, too much. So they sent in the TOU guys.
Okay.
But our guys are biting at the bit for sure to get there.
Yeah, I'm sure that you guys would have. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the early career, because I know I jumped a bit forward to the Lindt siege situation. You went to Timor in the Special Forces, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What were they doing? I know that we had a
good question.
Peacekeeping side of over there. I've spoken to other military personnel that were over there in the peacekeeping. So what was the Special Forces doing over there?
We sent a crew, like a platoon plus, which maybe is 40 guys, I guess, in mid 2006, and I'd completed the build up and the activity for the Commonwealth Games, so the TAG, the Tactical Assault Group, went down to provide security for the Commonwealth Games in case an incident occurred. These are all high threat areas. It
was in Melbourne?
In Melbourne, yeah. So your Olympic Games, your Commonwealth Games are all high threat areas. So we went down for that. And that was great. We were down in Melbourne for about 3 months. We were there 3 months the year before. So that was a great activity operation, they called it. So after that, I did like a promotion course to become a sergeant. So I'm in Singleton doing a field promotion course to be a sergeant. And all the promotion courses, I guess, just as a sidebar, are just the biggest drag. It's all stuff that but they've got to officially teach you, and you've got to understand it's all basic stuff, but it's just a nightmare. It's 3 months out of your life that you're sitting around Singleton being told how to shoot a machine gun that you've been doing for 20 years. So none of it's exciting. You don't really learn anything. So I'm up there going, why am I doing this? But I wanted to be promoted because sergeants kind of run the unit in as far as training and being lead instructors on explosives and roping and driving and whatever. So I needed to do that course because I knew Afghanistan was coming up and I wanted to be in a key team commander position, which was a sergeant position. So I said, yeah, I'll do this course at St Kilda. So I went up there in like July, August, September. And over that time frame, I heard that we sent 30, 40 guys to Timor. I'm like, what's happening in Timor? And they're like, oh, there's some border issues again on the western border there with Indonesia, and there's some incursions. And we didn't get much information. It's like, okay, good luck to the boys. But then on the last couple of days of my course, they're like, hey, Muzz, do you want to come back early? A, yes, I do. And B, do you want to go to Timor with the next crew that are going? I'm like, this is great. I don't have to do a march out, like stand on a parade ground to finish my course. I can do an operation and go to Timor. And it was for 6 months. So I was like, well, yep, sure, I'll go. So I got a team.
And you got your promotion?
I got my promotion the year after, or the end of that year, yep. And got to Timor. So I got a crew of 35, 40 guys in Timor, and when we got there, we kind of worked out what the mission was, and it wasn't sort of incursions on the western border there. It's Alfredo Renato was running around causing havoc in 06. So the first Commando unit there was to keep an eye on him and report to the government, report to our hire what he was doing. They wanted an asset there prepared to take him down if it come to that. They didn't think it would. They thought they could negotiate with him and get him off the streets, because he had about 20 shooters with him, 20 guys, like a personal security team. So he was a legitimate threat, right? 20 guys, 20 shooters in Timor is a lot. So he was driving around he was meeting with the government behind our back. This is how crazy the whole dynamic was. He would meet with them and they'd things would be going well. So they're like, oh, you guys just lay off, give them a couple of weeks and whatever. So then we'll pretend to, sort of scope the border out for the incursion issue that was sort of non-existent. And then he would cause chaos and havoc again. So then we'd start tracking him and actually talking to him as well, because Timor's not that big. So we had 5 or 6 assault vehicles, and so did he, to get his 20 guys around. So, you think of 6 vehicles going one way, 6 vehicles going the other way. The road's only big enough for one. So we'd often stop as we were sort of awkwardly passing each other.